Welcome back to Ring of Fire. I'm Mike Papantonio. Fox News knows that their audience is made up of gray-haired, senile, elderly, old people, so they have to find a way to stay relevant as their audience leaves this world. So now they're going after our children by airing propaganda videos by John Stossel in public schools. Joining me now to talk about the Fox News plan for our kids is author Alex Zaitchik. Alex, John Stossel in our children's classroom. I can't imagine anything scarier than that. How's all this come about?
Well, the program's actually been around for a long time. It began when Stossel was on ABC back in the late 90s. And he got a little bit of seed money from a libertarian think tank, and it's grown over the years to now what he claims is 150,000 classrooms around the country, and most of it is content from his Fox Business show.
Okay, so what is the idea of what he does in the classroom? What is it that he's supposed to project on behalf of Fox News and every neocon in the country? What can we expect?
Well, he's sort of Fox Business's in-house libertarian now that Judge Andrew Napolitano is off the air. So he's sort of the face of libertarianism for the network. And his lessons, the modules that he's promoting through this program, Stossel in the Classroom, are essentially packaged libertarian ideological lessons. And each one addresses a different aspect of government regulation, which should be abolished, is the implicit message. And together you have not just a critique of government regulation of the private sector, but you have an assault on the very idea of government legitimacy and even government's right to issue a currency, for example.
So I saw some of the topics that you talk about. One of them is, why does Hollywood hate capitalism, debunking food myths, and the real story of Thanksgiving, where he explains that pilgrims are actually hurting us by sharing with us. So I'm wondering, do teachers have a choice? Do teachers say, no, I don't want to use this. This is insane. This is crazy talk. I mean, it's not just because of Fox News. It seemed like a teacher could be a clearinghouse and say, I don't want this nut in my classroom.
Right. I mean, teachers do have to sign up for it. It is optional, but I think it's worth considering this program in the larger context of the education privatization movement, which is one of Stossel's hobby horses. And he works for a man, Rupert Murdoch, who has a large entertainment company, and it's growing, which just last week at South by Southwest announced it was going to start making these little tablets for teachers around the country called Amplify. Well, the company's called Amplify. The tablets don't have a name yet. But basically the idea is if these are distributed, they could one day hold content such as Stossel in the Classroom. I don't think it's too dystopic to imagine this at some point in our lifetimes.
It's so crazy that you want to laugh about it, but it's actually pretty scary stuff. So where we are, Fox News and the neocon right realize that they have a generational problem, that the people who ever took them seriously for any period of time are dead or dying. And so now they're moving into our classroom to try to create a new level of propaganda that children growing up can believe that Ayn Rand was really a great hero. Is that kind of where this is all headed?
John Stossel certainly admires Ayn Rand, and she's definitely someone who would occur over the course of these lessons. I think it's worth noting, though, that Stossel would certainly distance himself from the neocon label. He actually promotes a very isolationist, very radical, extreme isolationist foreign policy, although his ideas about business and the economy are very much aligned with the mainstream right, absolutely, and the hard right.
I remember Stossel doing a segment, I guess we'll see in the classrooms, where he was talking about the value and the need for robber barons in America, how they did so much good. He actually called Jay Gould a hero. Jay Gould, you may remember, is the person that says, I have enough money to buy half of America's workforce to be willing to kill the other half. That was Jay Gould. That was the robber baron that John Stossel thinks is so important. So who is the gatekeeper on this? If you're listening to this broadcast, watching this segment, how does somebody say, is this taking place in my school? What do they do about it?
Well, I mean, you can talk to your kids and find out if there's any sort of political lessons like this going on. It's still a pretty limited program, but I think, again, to keep an eye on the education privatization movement in your state generally, because as that movement breaks down the Common Core of curricular requirements, you're going to see more things like this start to trickle into the curriculum, because teachers aren't going to be given things they have to teach. And as their budgets are slashed to pay for these other education reform ideas and agendas, their teachers are going to become more and more reliant on outside materials that maybe can't be filtered as carefully.
In other words, it's a time filler. It's a way to say, I've got a course already filmed. It looks slick. It looks good. Real quickly, in less than 30 seconds, where does the money come from for this?
It comes from an organization in Philadelphia called the Center for Independent Thought, which is a sort of boutique libertarian funding foundation run by Howard Rich, real estate mogul, and his wife Andrea. And they distribute pretty much the entirety of the funding Stossel needs to keep this a professional operation.
And to this day, we don't know really how much Stossel's paid for this, do we?
There's $230,000 listed on their tax filings as other for this program.
Other could be just damn near anything. Anyway, Alexander, thank you for joining us. We'll stay up with the story, okay?
Thanks for having me.
Alex Zaitchik is the author of the book Common Nonsense, Glenn Beck and the Triumph of Ignorance. Cancer has become our generation's greatest medical battle. So why would anybody take a pill that's been shown to cause cancer in patients? Drug companies covered up their knowledge of the relationship between cancer and the diabetes drug Actos. I have attorney Kim Truongle with me now to talk about the dangers of Actos. So another medicine on the market, killing people, all different kinds of ways. It seems like every week there is another story like the one we're telling here. Tell us the Actos story.
Well, with Actos, unfortunately, there's over 25 million people affected with diabetes across America. So they've got to pick drugs to help them with that chronic condition. And Actos is one of the diabetes drugs out there. Actos is manufactured by Takeda, who is the largest manufacturer in Asia and one of the top 15 drug manufacturers in the world. So essentially the problem with Actos is that it's being linked to the chronic condition of bladder cancer, which of course can kill you.
Well, they knew this going in, didn't they? They saw a relationship, the company saw a clear relationship between rats that were dying from bladder cancer in their product. And
right.
They ignored that. Is it safe to say that?
Yeah, it's safe to say it. I would say more than ignored it. I think they just, blatantly pushed that evidence aside. They basically said that they couldn't tell what that relationship was between the rats and how that could affect humans. But of course, there are only studies done before the drug was approved was on rats.
Yeah, and so one reason they might want to ignore that is because they were making so damn much money. I mean, $4 billion, $5 billion, one of the biggest selling products in America. Tell us why they would ignore the fact that they have a product that they know has the potential to cause cancer in rats, and they completely ignore it. Tell us why.
Right, in 1 year alone, Takeda was making more than $4 billion on this drug. That was making up practically 25% of their revenue for just 1 year alone. So of course, it would make sense for them not to warn about this drug that was such a big seller for the company.
Don't you wonder, I think people listening to this broadcast are saying, how did the FDA let another one get by? How did it occur that now we're talking about a product that, A, we don't even need? Do you agree we don't even need this product? There are plenty of alternatives. Did I get that right?
Yeah, there are plenty of drugs out there.
So we don't need the product. It's a cash cow for this company. And so all of a sudden now we see that we're in a situation to where the FDA ignores the same information that this company ignored. It's Eli Lilly, isn't it? Aren't they one of the companies involved?
Right. So when Takeda wanted to bring this product over to America, they went ahead and joined with Eli Lilly, which is a huge manufacturer here in America, to market this to Americans. So, basically this is another situation of the FDA just dragging its heels and just taking its time to do anything to help the consumers here in America. We compare it to Europe, where France has pulled the drug completely off the market. Germany has strongly cautioned against its use. And here in America, the FDA said in 2010 that they were going to review the study reports. Then 9 months later, they said, okay, we're gonna change the label and talk about a few of the warnings and that it may be linked to bladder cancer. Took another 2 months for that to then get onto the label. But since then, it's still on the market. There's no major warning on it. There's no black box warning. There's no message out to America that says, you know what, this drug is killing people.
And so here you have a drug that if it is a 40, now tell me if this number is right because it's startling, a 40% increase of getting bladder cancer if you've been on the drug for a period of longer than 2 years. Is that the number that the FDA is allowing this product to stay on the market? Is that the number that they know?
Right. Actually, it's even worse than that. You know, when they initially put out the report in 2010 that said that the FDA was going to review the information they were reviewing said it was 2 years exposure that would cause a 40% increase, risk of bladder cancer. Since then, when they finally decided to change the label, they actually said that it was use of more than just 1 year. Now, diabetes is a chronic condition. It's going to take a while for someone to get used to that drug. It's going to take a while for the doctors to see the result. But unfortunately, by the time that happens, the patient's already at an increased risk of bladder cancer.
And again, a diabetic doesn't even need this drug. There are plenty of good alternatives besides this drug. But Eli Lilly wanted this drug because it is the cash cow that right now, what is it, about 2.3 million prescriptions in the United States of Actos for diabetics?
Right, and that was just in 1 year. That was just for about 9 months in 1 year. So that number should be larger than that.
Where do you see this going? Will the FDA do anything, or will they do what they typically do, and that is let the drug industry run wild in America, make as much money as they want, and just close their eyes to it?
You know, it's really unfortunate because I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're just going to wait and sit this out and not really, suck it to the companies like they should be. And that's why, the patients and the consumers, they need help from other avenues, from lawsuits that are going on nationwide to try to help people with this, because unfortunately the FDA is really not doing enough.
Well, then what you're saying is what we've seen so many times. Unless you have individual advocates bringing cases against this company, the American public would never know, A, this company clearly knew the product could kill people by the way of cancer, and B, they covered it up, and C, the FDA participated in that cover-up and doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. Thanks for joining me. It's a story we'll follow.
Thank you.
Kim Truongle is an attorney with the Howard Nations Law Firm. That's it for this week's Ring of Fire, but you can keep up with us throughout the week online at ringoffireradio.com or on Twitter at Ring of Fire Radio and on Facebook. I'm Mike Papantonio. We'll see you next week right here on Ring of Fire.
You're witness to a political coup taking place right in front of your damn eyes. That caliber of evil needed to be held accountable in courtrooms. Billionaire mad money wasn't enough to buy democracy. Legislators don't have enough sense to think for themselves. They let Alec do it.
Here at Ring of Fire, the truth is our only agenda, so we're able to bring you the stories that mainstream media just ignored or completely got wrong.